This is a Psion Organiser 2, and one of the things I do with this sort of gadget is I take it apart. Now this is one I took apart just to have a look inside, and all the screws are still off, so it's all pretty loose, and that's what you see inside. There's a couple of boards. There's one with the PCB layout for the keyboard on the bottom, and then another one on the top which seems to be sort of power. So of course you undo the screw that's there and you bend it up to have a look and see what's going on, and the ribbon cable breaks. So I've also had a look in another organiser, and I could feel the connections on this ribbon cable just disappearing. Absolutely no resistance. You just give it a few wiggles and it falls off, and yeah, I can feel that one starting to go as well. Although for some reason this one, I mean, it was about 3 or 4 bends and it just fell off. So anyway, I thought it'd be nice to get this working again. It'd also be nice to have something I could open up and have a look inside whenever I wanted to. And one of the things I've done on other bits of kit like this, specifically this one, when I replaced the PCB in the Casio CQ1, I actually replaced a ribbon cable with these jumpers. So I've had a look, I've slotted that into there, had a look at the distance, and it seems to match exactly this ribbon cable. So what I'm going to have a go at doing is removing the ribbon cable, cleaning the holes out, and putting a plug and socket arrangement with these jumpers between the two boards. That will give me a way of removing the board quite easily. That should last for quite a few insertions and removals. So first thing's to get that off. Ironically, it's been a little bit stubborn about falling off, but anyway, I'll get that off and desolder it, solder these two correct length. I think it's 27 pins, I just counted them. Need to check that, I suppose. I'll cut that down and see if it does actually fit. I've desoldered the ribbon cable, taken all the solder out of the holes, and I'll put a pin header on the keyboard PCB, and I've put a corresponding socket on the sort of power supply top slot PCB. Now you do have to put them in at an angle. You can see there that that's angled over, and that's got a matching angle on it, and that's because when you put them together, the 2 rows of holes, I'll just put that back in there, the 2 rows of holes don't actually line up, they're not vertically above each other, but you can, if you angle them, you can do it. You can get the 2 PCBs together and fit it all together with the very fiddly spring that goes in there. Just to hold that, oh, forget that, I'll just put the battery in. If I hold that on there, so that's now got power on it, and if I turn it over, you can see it does start up. I had a bit of a problem with the display, some lines were missing, but that's because I dismantled this one just to have a look and see what's going on. And the key thing to do is make sure your zebra strips go back in the way that they came out. You can do that by looking at the indentations of the PCB tracks on one side of them. They've got different numbers of tracks spread out at either end. And also clean the contacts with some alcohol, some IPA, because without that you'll end up with segments or lines missing. But that replacement jumper there is working fine, so that's a much better way of putting it together, so that I can take it apart again in the future without fear of the ribbon cable breaking again and having to solder a ribbon cable in, which is a real pain. Hate doing that. I do get the feeling that on this, and maybe the CQ1 as well, when they were prototyping this and writing the code and so on, I think maybe they had a jumper like this in there, because on both of those machines, this one and the CQ1, the spacing is just almost ideal. I mean, this one's slightly out because there's about a millimetre or maybe 2 sort of movement this way on the top board, but on the CQ1 it's absolutely spot on, and there was no problem at all putting jumpers in there. So I think maybe this was what happened in the development machines. But anyway, that's working again, and I've got a little machine I can use for experiments.